Good morning, March of Dimes supporters, volunteers, mission families. Welcome to the 2013 March for Babies Kickoff. Thank you so much for being here this morning at the beautiful Borghese. I'm Annette Prada. I am Executive Director of the March of Dimes in Westchester in the Hudson Valley. And this is kicking off our Dutchess Ulster March for Babies event, which is going to take place on May 5th, 2013 at the walkway over the Hudson. I want to introduce a couple of special guests, so just note that they're here. They're going to come up and speak in a few minutes. But we have Dr. Michael C. Caldwell. He's the Commissioner of Dutchess County, the Dutchess County Department of Health. Welcome, Dr. Caldwell. We have Ulster County Executive Mike Hine. We have Bob Lacola, Fishkill Town Supervisor. And I want to just acknowledge our sponsors before we get started here. Toll Brothers comes back every year as a major sponsor. Thank you, Toll, for all the support you give on the committee and the sponsorship and the team. New this year is CDPHP. M&T Bank is back. Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union is new this year. Mid-Hudson Valley Federal Credit Union, woo, thank you for coming back. Pepsi and Hannaford are going to be out with food and drinks. The Poughkeepsie Journal is back as a media sponsor, as is Southern Dutchess News. And Heather and the Chocolate Mousse is here as well, and they always come out and support us the day of. Now, it is at Adams Fairacre Farms, and it's going to be doing a really great wrap campaign for us in over the summer. So, thank you, Adams. It is my pleasure to introduce our March for Babies Chairman, Mr. Dan Zielinski, Regional Vice President of Toll Brothers New York Metro Division. President.
Good morning, welcome team captains, family members, fellow family teams, I should say, and committee members to the 2013 March for Dimes Kickoff Breakfast. You know, this is the 75th anniversary of the March of Dimes, as most of you, if not all of you know, founded by FDR back in 1938. So it's a special year for us, and you know, before I go any further, I look across this room and I remember this is my 6th year being involved in this great charitable organization. And I remember the first few breakfasts that I was involved with, there were many vacant seats. And I'm looking at this year, this is the best crowd that I've seen for a kickoff breakfast. And at this point, if we keep growing the way we're growing, I think we're going to need a different venue or one of the larger rooms here, but this is a fantastic showing. So everyone, just give yourselves a round of applause for making it out there this morning and supporting this great event. Thank you. The March of Dimes, it champions all babies, those born healthy, those born with conditions that need some medical attention. So one of the reasons personally I feel it's such a great event, whether you're a parent or not, the fact that we are all sitting here this morning, we all have to thank the March of Dimes and all the great research that they do in helping and promoting the health of babies. So it is a great organization, and it's a great charitable event, one that it's easy for all of us to get involved with. The walk itself has been going on since 1970. It's one of the earliest fundraising walkathons to be held in the nation. And every year, companies, families, and celebrities join forces with the March of Babies to make sure that every baby born is healthy. By the end of this program, all of you sitting here will have everything you need and all the resources. You'll know about all the resources that are available to you to build fundraising teams and to make them successful for 2013. With that, at this point in time, I would like to introduce Ulster County Executive Mike Hine.
This is just what you guys were hoping for. A politician from someplace else to come talk to me. Yeah, I get it. Before we get going, I want to tell you I'm not here as the Ulster County Executive, though I am so proud that Ulster and Dutchess are working together on this initiative. I'm here as a parent. And I'm going to talk to you a little bit about my experience and tell you that, you know what, we're not unique, my wife and I. We are parents just like everybody else. We go through the same kind of challenges. And I remember, it's been a long time ago now, but I remember when I got that phone call. My wife was 6 months pregnant. I think it ultimately turned out to be 24 weeks. And between 23 and 24 weeks. I got a phone call from her. She said she had gone to have a checkup. And so right now she was in the ambulance going to Albany Med, or I think she was going to St. Peter's to take that back. And so I was going to meet her there. And it was very scary. We've been through miscarriages. We've been through all kinds of real challenges as a family. We get there. Comes in. We just both were so naive, both presuming that everything was just going to be simple and easy and it was just some sort of precautionary measure. Well, an enormous amount of surfactant, by the way, thank you, March of Dimes. Without that, my son would not be alive today. Something literally funded by research by the March of Dimes that made it a reality. So my son was born at 23 and a half weeks, weighing 1.5 pounds. I remember like it was yesterday, the shock of that whole experience and what it meant to be as a young parent, how amazing that was. We proceeded to spend 4 months in the neonatal intensive care unit. If you spend time in a neonatal intensive care unit, you understand how lucky you are as a human being, and you understand the challenges that face people, and it puts everything in perspective. So, after that 4 months, we took him home on Thanksgiving Day. His big, huge weight at that time was just under 5 pounds. We went through the normal challenges, because I remember, by the way, the night, there was a Dr. Bartoletti. So many amazing things you remember at those moments. He told me there was some reality that I needed to understand, and that was that it was probably a 50-50% chance on whether or not my son would live. And it was an 80% chance that if he did live, that he would have major, major challenges. And so that was the new father moment for me. And I stood in the doorway. My wife had just given birth. They had given her some medication at the time. I walked into a neonatal intensive care unit for the very first time. It was pitch black at St. Peter's. And there was a warming tray like I had seen at fast food places. He hadn't even graduated basically to an incubator. He was on a warming tray. He was clear. Clear. Translucent, really. His eyes were pitch black. It didn't look like any baby I had ever seen before. And I watched, and I thought, oh my God, I am a father, and I am so scared for him. He showed a level of courage and a fight to stay alive that inspires me to this day. He's 13 years old. And though he has challenges, I will tell you something else. He was on the honor roll in his school. We are so blessed at this point. He is, you know, again, every single morning I hug my wife and I hug my son, and I think, how blessed am I? Because you know what? I'm one of the lucky ones. There's so many people that didn't have that kind of an outcome. There's so many people who didn't have that situation where it went well, because I saw it. If you spend 4 months in a neonatal intensive care, you don't just see the good outcomes. You see the horrific outcomes. And so when you think about what March of Dimes does, the real transformation that it makes in people's lives, I believe, like every parent, my child is going to do something special. I don't know what it is, but he's going to do something special in this life to make things better for other people, like a pebble in a pond. All we had to do was make sure he had a chance. That's what March of Dimes is all about. So if you're a team leader and you're raising money, know that it's just not just some charitable event. You're changing lives. Know that if you're involved in the March of Dimes and you work for them, it is a remarkable organization. It makes a huge difference. We've been ambassador families. I met Mickey Rooney. How nice is that? But what you really get to realize is that this is very, very special. It's life-changing. If you're the parent of a healthy child, go home and hug them. Know how lucky you are. If you're the parent of someone who was born prematurely, or in any way suffers from the challenges that come with that, hug them extra special, knowing that they wouldn't be here but for the work of March of Dimes. I feel blessed to be the county executive in Ulster County. I feel blessed to be involved in March of Dimes. But more than all of it, I feel blessed to have a son like my son Nick. Thank you very much.
I don't have the statistics in front of me, but every year we've done a little bit better in our fundraising thanks to people like you and the corporate sponsors and the walkers. And I tell you, over the last 3 years with Annette and Lynn Versace's involvement, this event has taken off. 3 years ago, you know, there were some organizational issues and things weren't looking like they were going to continue for the following year, at least to a certain extent Toll Brothers' involvement. But Annette jumped in and Lynn jumped in. And Lynn, for those of you who don't know her tenacity just goes unmatched. She's dealing with a health issue with her husband. She's had about 2 hours sleep last night. She's been at the hospital. She has her son here, Christian, who, this guy is just absolutely amazing. If you haven't met him, please make sure you meet Christian before the morning's over. But Lynn has been absolutely fantastic. She has re-energized at least the Toll Brothers team, and I think everyone sitting here has made some type of contact with Lynn. If you haven't, please come up and say hello to her before the morning's over. She's been absolutely fantastic. And I think last year we did have our biggest fundraising year, right? And I think a lot of it had to do with the walk teams. So, we dealt with tough times with the economy, but I think more than anything else, there are a lot of great charitable organizations out there. I know I get letters on a monthly basis on how Toll Brothers can contribute to this charity, that charity. Our company is a big supporter of the American Cancer Society, as well as a few others across the country. But again, March of Dimes is one of the best. And here locally, thank goodness we have Lynn. And with that, I'll hand the microphone over to her. Lynn Versace.
Thanks, Dan, and thanks to all of you for coming out this morning to kick off another great year. I appreciate all of you being here. It really means a lot to me. As some of you already know, the reason for my passion, along with this great mission, is because I did not have a positive outcome on April 25th, 2002. I lost my son, Vincent, just under 1 pound to prematurity. And he's my angel on my shoulder, and he really is the driving force and my motivation for this, as well as my daughter Gia, who just snuck in, who was born at 3 pounds 3 ounces. My son Christian was born in congestive heart failure. So all 3 aspects and reasons that the March of Dimes fights for, I've been affected and touched by. So I really do have a driving force to get me to where I need to go, to make sure that every family and every baby born from this day forward can live and have a fighting chance and have a great and healthy life. We can do this together. We can raise awareness, raise money, and help the future of all babies. I just want to see the hands of our veteran team captains. Anybody has marched before here? Is any of you new? Any of you new? No? Okay, so some of you have marched before, some of you have not. I just want to call on a great volunteer that I have, and I don't know if he's around, Perry Kimlin. If I can just call on Perry. I just want some of you to know what some of our volunteers do and go through besides just doing the walk. So Perry's just going to say a quick few words on what he does. This guy is everywhere, him and his friend Greg and the community. Thank you, Perry.
Hi, my name is Perry Kimler. I'm a grandfather, and this is completely outside of my comfort zone. Usually at this time of day, I'm driving a propane truck, listening to some Led Zeppelin on my iPod. The last time I stood in front of a group of people was at my granddaughter Olivia's funeral service. So, you have to bear with me. I've been wondering how I was going to make my point in just a couple of minutes. I've changed this a few times, but I settled on this. We're all here for a reason. Most of us have been affected in some way by premature birth. At the very least, we've all been babies. There are a few of us here, because we can get free breakfast, right? And, get some brownie points. Hopefully we can get past St. Peter a little easier at the end of this ride. All I'm really trying to do is to make the outcome better for the next family of a preterm baby, so they don't have to endure the heartbreak that mine has. A little background of my involvement with the March of Dimes. On April 27, 2011, my granddaughter Olivia was born at 29 weeks. March 26th, at 28 days old, she passed away from a disease called necrotizing It's abbreviated NEC. Later that spring, I was at a concert called Mountain Jam, a 4-day music festival up at Hunter Mountain. At the festival, they have an area called the Awareness Village. Awareness Village is where you can bring your not-for-profit organizations, set up booths, and bring their causes to the masses. As I walked through, I wondered to myself if they would allow me to set up a booth for the March of Dimes. Being a procrastinator, I thought about it, and in the fall, about 6 or 8 months later, I sent an email to the March of Dimes. And WDST Radio, which runs Mountain Jam, both of them were receptive to my idea, and I moved forward and ultimately set up a booth at that event. On the 15th, February 15th, 2012, my grandson Eli, over there, just arrived, and his sister Hannah were born at 26 weeks. On March 22nd, 2012, Hannah passed away from the exact same disease as Olivia. So with that turn of events, I was heartbroken beyond belief, and needed a way to turn that grief into something positive. With the ball rolling on Mountain Jam, I started looking at other events that I could take the March of Dimes to. Specifically looking for places that you don't normally see the March of Dimes. To share this awful story that happens way too frequently. No one's aware that it's happening until it's happening to someone you know and somebody you love. So starting last spring, with the help of several friends, including my pal Greg, I set up a tent at 12 events ranging from the Gardner Cupcake Festival to the Ulster County Fair, car shows, street festivals, fireworks display, anywhere they would allow me. I spent 20 days under that tent, and I estimate through my efforts I exposed approximately 100,000 people to the March of Dimes. And we raised somewhere around $2,300 selling raffle tickets. So, the bottom line is I'm one person, and one person can make a difference, and so can you guys. And that's it. Thanks a lot for hearing me out.
Perry, I just want to give you your plaque, because Perry did a lot of work for us last year, and I appreciate that. Yes, I do appreciate that. So, as most of you know exactly why we're here, you've heard the stories, you've put a face to the mission. Whether you're a returning team captain or first-time team captain, you'll see that firsthand that March of Dimes is a team-building experience. And as Dan mentioned, it's the 75th anniversary of the March of Dimes. and we are thrilled to have the Dutchess County Commissioner of Health here with us today, this morning, to touch on some major breakthroughs of the past 75 years, and where the March of Dimes has been and where they're headed. So please join me in welcoming Dr. Michael Caldwell.
Well, first of all, let me tell you how inspired I am by everything I've heard so far this morning. It is true. There's been a great turnaround at the March of Dimes, and it's been in no small part because of the leadership. But by extension, now all of us are part of that leadership. And it's up to us to go out of this room to be able to inspire 10 more people and just keep building. I thought it would be real great to provide some kind of overview about some of the science and where we have been for the past 75 years. The March of Dimes has been improving the health of babies for all of this time, and it was begun right here in Dutchess County, right up the block in Hyde Park by Franklin Delano Roosevelt, when we developed vaccines to prevent paralytic polio at the time. It was called the National Foundation for Infantile Paralysis. But we changed our mission to birth defects prevention, and we went on to promote healthy pregnancy and healthy babies with several major scientific breakthroughs. You know, the March of Dimes is the only organization that I know of that actually achieved its goal and could have possibly put itself out of business. They wanted to conquer polio, they wanted to get a vaccine, and they did. And they said, no, we're not done. We've got a lot more work to do to build a healthy community. So here's, we'll go back just to Franklin Roosevelt. As you know, he had polio, and he got it as an adult. And he resolved to defeat that disease that crippled and killed so many children. And he created the March of Dimes in 1938 to solve this problem. So the first years of the March of Dimes were just focused on finding a way to stop polio. And back in 1921, FDR contracted polio, and he was disabled for life. He's the only person in world history elected to be the leader of his country who could not walk or stand on his own. He and his law partner here, Basil O'Connor, collaborated to find the means to defeat polio. And Mr. O'Connor is an important figure in the March of Dimes because he was president from its founding in 1938 all the way up into 1972 when he died. He stayed around longer than the Pope did, I guess. He did this time around. Poliomyelitis, or polio, is a contagious, disabling viral disease, and it struck without warning, often leading to paralysis and lifelong disability. Because it affected children so often, it was known as infantile paralysis, and recovery from polio was difficult and often incomplete. Sad to say, the world is still not completely have a polio-free world the way we have a smallpox-free world, although there's very little polio left in the world. There's some parts of the world that we are still trying to get polio vaccination. And you may have heard in some parts of the world, like in, I think, Pakistan or Afghanistan, they're actually killing the people who are trying to vaccinate the children because they think there's some untoward political implications toward them. So we are still fighting this battle that FDR started around the world, but thankfully in the United States we've made great progress from what you see here back in 1955, where some of the worst cases of polio, the respiratory muscles would be paralyzed and sometimes would lead to death. In such cases, individuals were placed in iron lung respirators, which you see now. Thankfully, they're only just in museums now to help breathing. The March of Dimes purchased hundreds of these iron lungs, shipping them to polio epidemic centers throughout the U.S. and overseas. The March of Dimes funded many research breakthroughs in basic science. The key to defeating polio was in the vaccine developed by Dr. Jonas Salk through the March of Dimes funds. Salk's vaccine did stop polio, and today babies receive the polio vaccine and several others to prevent life-threatening diseases. And you know, when I was just starting out here in Dutchess County, almost 19 years ago, I had a few employees who actually participated as children in those early campaigns to fight polio. And I'm wondering if anyone here in this room today volunteered in 1955 as a child to be part of a polio pioneer. No. It's really great though. This one employee I had still carried their card with them that said they were polio. They're very proud of that. So it was really some way that children were able to give of themselves and participate in a clinical trial early on. The effectiveness of the Salk polio vaccine, as well as the vaccine created by the March of Dimes by Albert Sabin, the other type of vaccine, is dramatically apparent if you look at this graph. The number of polio cases dwindled to a handful in the 1960s, and by 1979, polio was entirely eradicated from the United States. Just look at those numbers on the graph. You had upwards of, in the 50s, of nearly 60,000 cases of polio, which are now no longer occurring. And this is the thing with public health and prevention, is nobody knows that, oh, I was saved from polio, or that didn't happen to me because I was vaccinated. There are these 60,000 stories that existed in the 50s that today we don't hear about anymore. And in some ways, it's one of the struggles we have in public health and prevention, because when we get rid of something, people don't think about it anymore. And that's why we're really concerned that people don't respect vaccination as much anymore. But if we stopped vaccinating people, polio could come back. Another one of the great achievements of the March of Dimes was funding Dr. Apgar. She created the first clinical system for evaluating newborns at birth. And for those of you who have had babies, you may have heard, oh, their Apgar score was whatever it was. It is a simple method to measure an infant's vital signs, quickly indicating whether a newborn needs special medical attention to stay alive. Virginia Apgar was truly a champion for babies. In the 1960s, the March of Dimes created over 100 birth defect treatment centers in hospitals throughout the United States. Those years saw the rise of perinatology and the creation of intensive care nurseries known as NICUs, neonatal intensive care units. The foundation began to award grants for perinatal training of nurses and physicians, NICU equipment, and prenatal evaluation and care of high-risk pregnancies. March of Dimes also has supported research leading to historic breakthroughs in genetics. Our grant to James Watson for his discovery of the double helical structure of DNA led to screening for genetic diseases. Our grantee, Francis Collins, directed the Human Genome Project and now heads the National Institutes of Health. And actually, another grantee is standing here right in front of you. Dr. Michael Caldwell was a grantee for a summer at Mount Sinai School of Medicine back in 1988, when I did some research there in my summer in medical school working on the genetics of cystic fibrosis. So that was a great summer project. Surfactant, which we heard about in dramatic form this morning by County Executive Hine, is used to treat the respiratory distress syndrome, a leading cause of death among premature babies. It is a substance which lowers the surface tension in the air sacs of a baby's lungs, keeping them from collapsing. Surfactant was developed by March of Dimes grantee T. Allen Merritt. Surfactant therapy has saved thousands of premature and sick babies. The March of Dimes launched a campaign in 1998 urging women of childbearing age to take the B vitamin folic acid to reduce the risk of neural tube defects, such as spina bifida. Today, because of March of Dimes education and advocacy, women get more folic acid in their diets and know they need to take a multivitamin during pregnancy. As a result, neural tube defects have declined by 1/3. I actually had a professor in medical school who prided himself when he taught about this to show a picture of him at his daughter's wedding. And he had a picture of him giving her a little bottle of folic acid, as to say, now is the time to start taking it. You should start taking folic acid even before you're trying to get pregnant. The March of Dimes has supported the life-saving technologies of the neonatal intensive care, which have made tremendous progress on keeping extremely premature infants alive. Our goal is to prevent premature birth and the problems and disorders that arise from prematurity. Newborn screening. It is the early identification of infants who are affected by genetic or other disorders. The March of Dimes advocacy for screening 29 treatable disorders at birth helped to establish national guidelines in newborn screening program. Our first grant for newborn screening was in 1961. And the value of this, if you look at that particular chart there, is that if we just could put a drop of blood and identify some types of genetic disorders at the time of birth, and we recognize that, we can provide a treatment plan for life for that child, and they will live a normal life. And before that, we didn't know what that child had, and they would often die unnecessarily. In recent years, the March of Dimes funded researchers have discovered the genes for Marfan syndrome and the Fragile X syndrome, and have developed nitric oxide therapy to treat persistent pulmonary hypertension in preemies. The March of Dimes grantee Peter Agree won the 2003 Nobel Prize in Chemistry for discovering how water molecules move through cell membranes. The March of Dimes is committed to finding new approaches to solve the problem of preterm birth. Together with Stanford University School of Medicine, we launched Transdisciplinary Research Center for Premature Birth in 2011 to study the interrelated factors that contribute to a mother having a baby early. The March of Dimes NICU Family Support Program provides information and comfort to families during NICU hospitalizations. NICU Family Support is a family-centered care program that helps new parents to cope with the stressful NICU experience and to become more involved in a baby's care in transition to home. Born Too Soon is a groundbreaking report led by the March of Dimes. 15 million babies worldwide are born premature each year. More than 1 million die. By sharing best practices with partners around the world, 75% of these deaths can be prevented through mothers receiving the proper prenatal care. We are starting to win the U.S. preterm birth rate. It is starting to decline, but look, see, we had a little setback there. It went up at some point too. So we're trying to, in understanding why it went up, we're also very aggressively have a goal to reduce it back down to 9.6% by 2020. And we're doing so by analyzing the maximum achievable benefits of known prevention strategies. One, we're preventing medically unnecessary cesarean sections and inductions before 39 weeks of pregnancy. Two, we're providing progesterone treatments for medically eligible women. Three, smoking cessation programs. We still have not conquered the demon of smoking yet, especially in pregnant women. And lowering the number of pregnancies from infertility treatments that result in multiples. That also is one of the reasons that we've had challenges with the preterm rate. So our goal also anticipates that more women will have insurance coverage with the new Affordable Care Act in the future, and that continued research will yield new medical advances. More than 4 million babies were born in the U.S. last year. You could go to the next slide. And the March of Dimes helped each and every one through 75 years of research, education, vaccines, and breakthroughs. The March of Dimes envisions a future in which every baby is born healthy. That's why we're funding new research to find the cause of premature birth and develop new ways to prevent it. We are also educating women about how they can reduce their risks and get the services they need to have healthy babies. Well, in Dutchess County, believe it or not, over 10% of the babies are born premature. And of those, 4.5% will die as a result. March of Dimes and the Dutchess County Department of Health are working together to fight this problem locally. One of our public health nurses, Joan Wright, has joined the March of Dimes Program Services Committee to act as a resource and liaison between the March of Dimes and the community and the Department of Health. March of Dimes has also funded numerous community grants impacting Dutchess County, including a folic acid education program, the Centering Pregnancy Program at Vassar Brothers Medical Care Center, and educational meetings of the Lower Hudson Valley Perinatal Network. For the past 10 years, the March of Dimes also holds the Franklin Delano Roosevelt Student Convocation at the FDR Museum and Library, which increases awareness and interest in the life sciences to hundreds of Hudson Valley high school students. That's just it about the March of Dimes. They really not only want to treat what we can treat, they want to prevent what we can prevent, but here they are also trying to inspire the next generation through education. We're trying to inspire them to science, to become scientists, to service, to serve the public, and to build a stronger and safer world for all of us, but especially our precious little babies. I really look forward to walking with you on May 15th. May 5th. Don't be there on the 15th. May 5th on the walkway. And I just, on behalf of County Executive Molinaro, want to just tell you that county government's going to be there in just as much strength as all of you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much to Dr. Caldwell. That was a very powerful message, and I hope you all take that to heart. And speaking of things close to my heart, I actually have some special guests here today. I'm going to let you have them come up and tell their story. I'd like to give a warm welcome and a solid round of applause for our 2013 mission family for our 75th anniversary walk. I would like to welcome Jessica, Mike, and the three beautiful preemies, Eve, Mackenzie, and Lily. We are so honored to have you guys here today. And these are the beautiful girls that are here, and this is the picture of them right on the podium. So welcome, and thank you so much for being our ambassador family for the walk this year. It means a lot.
Good morning. As you can imagine, when we first learned we were having triplets, saying that we were shocked would be a complete understatement. Like many people, I faced significant fertility issues, and the road to becoming a mother was a complicated one. Mike and I would have been overjoyed with one baby, but three? How are we going to manage three infants? More importantly, how will we manage three teenagers? As the pregnancy progressed, I went to my normal doctor, saw a maternal fetal medicine doctor, changed my workload, improved my diet, took my vitamins, and prayed everything would be okay. Throughout the pregnancy, there were several instances where we were told that we should not be surprised if we miscarried one or two of the babies. We were told with multiples, specifically high-order multiples, that miscarriage was an unfortunate reality. Still, we continued, wishing, hoping, and praying that all three babies would be born healthy. Aside from unrelenting nausea and fatigue, I had a great pregnancy. I followed doctor's orders, no lifting, no exercising, less stress. I was perfectly happy to hire a cleaning lady and make Mike take the garbage out. Everything was fine. Until it wasn't. June was a particularly hot month last year, and I remember feeling huge and uncomfortable, especially on June 21st when the temperature neared 100 degrees. I didn't feel well that day. My back was bothering me, I was more exhausted than usual, and I couldn't eat anything. What happened in the next 24 hours changed my life. The next morning I woke up, I took a shower and started to get ready for work. It was just another Friday, and then my water broke. I immediately panicked. I woke my husband up and we rushed to St. Luke's Cornwall Hospital in Newburgh. I kept thinking maybe I was wrong. Maybe my water didn't break. How could it have broken at 25 and a half weeks? The girls were too little. I wasn't ready. Their mortality was real. Mike and I celebrated when we reached 24 weeks, knowing that that is really the first point of viability. We started our countdown to 28 weeks, when most infants face fewer issues if born prematurely, but our countdown was cut short. As we waited for the sonographer, I started to accept the reality that I could lose one of my girls. The ultrasound confirmed our fears. Lily's amniotic fluid had in fact ruptured, and she now had only a third of the original amount. But that was not the scariest news of the day. The doctor came in shortly after and told us I was already 4 centimeters dilated and was in active labor. I knew my back was bothering me, but labor? This was not the experience that most women describe. What happened next was a blur of medication, doctors, nurses, family members, and tears. Could they stop the labor? Could they get me to Westchester? Could they save the girls? Thankfully, after several doses of medication, the doctors were able to stop my labor, and I took what seemed to be an incredibly long ambulance ride to Westchester Medical Center. I was admitted immediately and started what would be 10 days of strict bed rest. Throughout my pregnancy, I did a lot of research. Research on prematurity, on NICU stays, on parenting multiples. But all the research I did assumed that we would have 32-weekers. My doctors were confident throughout my whole pregnancy that I would, at the very least, make it to 32 weeks. So there was no need to look at what having a micropreemie would mean. In those 10 days I spent on bed rest, I used my knowledge to have real discussions with the neonatologists and maternal fetal medicine doctors about intraventricular hemorrhage, about necrotizing enterocolitis, and about surfactant production. I was prepared as I could be, but I knew that with each day I was able to prevent the girls from being born, we could be more helpful about their outcomes. The night before I made it, that's Eve that you hear over there. The night before I made it to 27 weeks, labor began again. My back was on fire. The nurses called the OB resident, who told me I was fine, not to worry about it without even examining me. By 1:45 a.m., I was in searing pain and calling again for a doctor. This time, a different OB resident checked me. I was 10 centimeters and Lily was coming. I was rushed to labor and delivery for an emergency C-section. Lily was born at 2:39 a.m., weighing 2 pounds 1 ounce at 13 and a half inches long. Eve was born at 2:41, weighing 2 pounds and 14 inches long. And Mackenzie was born at 2:43, weighing 2 pounds at 14 and a half inches long. It seemed like there were 100 people in the operating room. Each girl had a team, and I had a team. After they were born, I was able to see Lily and Eve quickly, but Mackenzie was rushed away immediately because she was not breathing. That night began the longest, hardest battle Mike and I have ever had to face. By the time I woke up in the recovery room, a little over an hour later, Mike had made it to the hospital and our family started to arrive. He was able to see the girls and take a few pictures so I could see them. He told me they were okay. They were hooked up to a bunch of machines, but they were alive. And honestly, that was better than I thought they would be. July 2nd began our 105-day journey through the NICU. Mackenzie had the longest, most difficult journey. She spent 8 weeks on a ventilator. She didn't open her eyes for 11 days, and she had to be bagged on a fairly regular basis. She looked like a string bean, long and skinny, but there was a fight in her like none I'd ever seen before. She endured blood gases, heel sticks, billy lights, vent pressures, a staph infection, cellulitis, osteomyelitis, surgery at 3 pounds, and she proved to us all that she was here to stay. It took her a long time to strengthen her respiratory system, but after 8 weeks ventilated, she was finally able to move to CPAP and then to CPAP. Over the course of 3.5 months, she was tested repeatedly, and each time she found the strength to continue her fight. I think in some ways she just knew her daddy never doubted her ability to survive and later to thrive. While most of the family, myself included, prepared ourselves for the worst, Mike held on to enough hope for all of us. He just knew his girls were going to be okay. And besides looking remarkably like her father, I like to believe that Mackenzie has many of his traits: strength, determination, and a never-give-up attitude. And it is that likeness that brought her and our family through our darkest hours. For most of their NICU stay, I called Lily and Eve the twins. They were so much alike and faced so many of the same issues. They both, and they screamed repeatedly. They both had difficulty breathing and were on CPAP from birth. They both had some difficulty tolerating food, and they were, as their nurses called them, the Brady Queens. For those of you who don't know what a Brady is, it's a sudden decrease in heart rate. A typical preemie may have 4 or 5 of them in a 24-hour period that requires stimulation. My girls were having sometimes 12 to 14 a day. As I joked with the nurses, they just wanted attention. The struggles that Lily and Eve faced were the very typical stories you hear about micropreemies. They struggled to grow, to decrease their pressures on CPAP and CPAP. They struggled to maintain body temperature, and they struggled with Brady's. It seemed they each knew when we went to talk to the other one because they would Brady immediately to call us back. Lily proved to be our first graduate, though when she first took the car seat test and failed, I thought they were never going to make it home. She was born at 2 pounds 1 ounce and left the NICU 94 days later weighing 7 pounds 3 ounces. In 3 months, she has more than tripled her size and amazed us all. Today, she is just the happiest baby you could imagine. She's my little smiley chunk. She lights up her room with her laughter and ear-to-ear grin. She loves to play, and she loves to interact with her sisters. She's currently 25 inches long and weighs 15.8 pounds at almost 8 months old. She's the happiest little girl around. Eve left the NICU the day after Lily. She was born at 2 pounds, and after 95 days in the NICU, she left weighing 7 pounds 1 ounce. She loves to babble, to laugh, to play, and now that she has finally found her voice, she loves to screech at the top of her lungs. She is my most independent girl. She's cautious of people she doesn't know, but she's very loving to all those she does know, and she makes us laugh every day. She's my fighter. She lets you know immediately if she's unhappy, but she gives us the biggest smiles when she is happy. At almost 8 months old, Eve is 14.6 pounds and 24.5 inches long. Mackenzie's stay was a little more extended. At birth, my little string bean weighed 2 pounds. At discharge, 105 days later, she weighed 6 pounds 11 ounces. Though I view each of my girls as miracles, Mackenzie truly amazes me. She suffered the most, fought the most, faced the most significant battles, and in the end, she won them all. It was a terrifying journey with her, but it was worth every minute. Today she smiles, laughs, is beginning to really babble, and she loves to play. She laughs at her sister, and though there is a significant amount of medical follow-up we have to do with her, her fighting spirit gives us hope that in the end everything will be okay. At nearly 8 months old, she's 25.5 inches long and weighs 13.1 pounds. If the NICU teaches you anything, it's to celebrate the smallest victories, to love big for those tiny babies, and to never give up hope. You learn to appreciate your baby's cries because it means that they're breathing, to love when they're fussing because it means they have a fighting spirit, and to cherish every moment with them, whether it's 3 p.m. or 3 a.m., because you know you're so blessed to have that with them. You learn to never take life for granted, to always hope for tomorrow, and to always believe in miracles. Einstein once said there are 2 ways you can live. You can live as if nothing is a miracle, or you can live as if everything is a miracle. I choose to believe the latter. Everything is a miracle, and my girls are proof of that.
Well, first, Dr. Caldwell and now with Jessica simply underscore the reason, again, why we're all here. And, we know why our job is so important moving forward. And quickly, I'll just go through a few pointers now as we're drawing the breakfast to a close on what you guys need to do, or tips on how to be successful in your fundraising efforts. First, as a team captain, your job is to manage the campaign and maximize funds raised. As you track your team's fundraising progress, it helps to share how everyone is doing clearly. And I also just want to add what is extremely unique to this charitable organization is that, and we proved it last year again, is that a great percentage, a higher percentage of the donations raised is because of you, of the teams. It's not corporate sponsorship, although they're involved and we want as many corporate sponsors as possible. It's the walk teams, okay? Number 2, serving as team captain is a great leadership experience and opportunity. You'll be responsible for recruiting walkers, motivating the team. You can also recruit and manage co-captains as well. Number 3, engage your place of employment. Your spouse's or family member's place of employment. Ask if they will sponsor or do a piece of the walk. Hold up a sign. Most companies will support their employees, as does Toll Brothers every single year, and we have signs at various levels to fit budgets for any size company. Number 4, if you are a family team, we have special opportunities for your team to purchase signage, banners in honor of the baby or babies you may be walking for. Number 5, go viral. Simple as that. Everything you need to know is at the marchforbabies.org website. Everything about going viral and getting the word out. And if you have any questions or trouble, do not hesitate to contact Lynn. She is your local March of Dimes contact, and she will be more than happy to help you with any question whatsoever regarding your fundraising efforts. Number 6 and last, ask your company to sponsor the March Babies. We have many different levels available of sponsorship. from village sponsorship to presenting sponsorship. Get your company in front of the thousands of March for Babies, share information, product, and show that your company supports the universal and worthy cause of health for babies. And with that, I'll bring it back to Lynn for the conclusion of this morning's breakfast. Thank you very much.
I want to thank Dan and Toll Brothers. I want to thank my mission family. I want to thank all of you for coming out today. It really does mean a lot to me. I want you to all to please go to www.marchforbabies.org. Please register your walk teams, share it with people, get people on board. It's all about recruiting and going viral. Last year, the walk reached its all-time high, $175,000 you guys raised. So I want you to give a round of applause for all you guys, because without you guys, I couldn't have done that. As I tell my kids growing up, there is no I in team. So I certainly, although I am one person in the community out there with the reach and knowledge, because I work for the organization, I'm not simply doing it alone. You guys are my team. You guys have my back. You guys are there every time I call on you, and I need you, and I thank you for that. It really does mean a lot. Please continue to go out there and make it go viral. The walk is Sunday, May 5th at the walkway over the Hudson. I want to let you know that on a serious note, please remember one powerful statement from, my favorite hockey player and hockey great, Wayne Gretzky. He always says, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. So I implore all of you to take every shot, every time you can, anywhere you can, and one day you will make that goal. Thank you so much for coming. That does conclude our program. Again, anything anybody needs, I can make it happen. And if I can't, I will get you the answer and find out someone who can. Thank you again, and God bless you. Have a great day. Thank you so much for coming in.